All right, so we are recording this session, and basically we're just going to do a Q&A now on the Facebook Insights video. One thing I do want to let you know of here that I have discovered is there has been a change in the Facebook admin panel. And here, I'm just going to mute you guys out because I've got some background noise here. All right, so if you want to come out, just go ahead and unmute yourself. But anyway, what I've discovered is there is been some changes in the Facebook control panels. In some of those pages, they look slightly different. The tactic is still the same. So this happens all the time when you're dealing with different ad companies, Facebook, YouTube, Google itself, Google AdWords. They change their back-end control panels all the time. So it seems like no matter what you do, you're always out of date with that. But everything that you've seen in the video all still exists in there. The tabs might have changed, or they might change the locations or the names. But know what you're doing is the same. You're basically using Facebook Insights to discover what audiences are inside Facebook that pertain to your most profitable market segment. The reason being is the more that you know about your audience, the better avatar that you can create. So when you move into the traffic section, or rather you move into the creation section, you can create much more effectively based on that information. So that's the whole point of this. There is no right or wrong to it. That was something that was brought up last week on the Google information, on the Google Planner. And that's one thing that people were seeing is, you know, they thought they were doing something wrong because they couldn't find the information they were looking for. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means you might find it in other areas. So all of these tools are basically, there's no one tool that's going to be an end-all be-all for you. They're just tools to help you discover your audience. And if one doesn't work, then try something different. Just move on to the next one. But Facebook Insights is pretty good. It's got most of your audience is going to be found in there somewhere in those segments and the filtering. So once you filter down, you can see how many of them are in there. And it doesn't mean that that's everybody in Facebook. It's the ones that have been active, like average active users in a month that fit that criteria. So that kind of gives you an idea of how big an audience you could advertise to. So anyway, go ahead. If you guys have any questions about that, just unmute your line. Down at the bottom, there's a little microphone button there to unmute. And come on out and ask away, ask your questions.
Hey, John, this is Dan.
Hey, Dan, go ahead.
Hey, so I've been playing around with the Facebook ads, and how are we supposed to, I don't know if the right word is interpret, but you know, I do put in all the information and the demographics and interests and behaviors, and how am I supposed to interpret what comes out of it? Because I do know then it does pare down the number of people, right? Because it's not everyone in Facebook. It kind of matches only those demographics. But from there, like, how am I supposed to look at the results?
Well, basically what you're trying to do here in this point is you're trying to see how many people match your criteria that you potentially could advertise to. And then of that group, you're discovering as much intel about that particular group as you possibly can. Like if you find the majority of them are homeowners, that's something that you might mention in your ad copy or in your videos and relate to that. It's like a really good salesman. If he comes into your house to talk to you, the first thing he's going to do is he's going to make observations. He might ask you a few questions like, you know, how long have you owned this home? And he'll ask you that question to find out if you indeed do own the home or if you're just renting. Because all of that stuff, all of the information that he can gather from being observant and just looking around and asking a few basic questions, he is going to use that to build trust and rapport with you. Like, for instance, it's real easy for somebody in my house. They can walk in and there's two big fish on the walls. So it's pretty obvious what I'm into. So it's easy for them. I give them a pretty big clue of what I'm interested in. So when they talk fishing with me, I automatically resonate with that person. So that's what you're trying to do here, is you're trying to figure out, is there any common ground where you can gain a little intel in your audience so you can do that without being belly to belly with them. This is about creating, an automated selling system online. So we've got to, the more intel we can get about the audience, the more effective that will be when we create our funnels. So that's kind of your interpretation of the data, is who is this audience? What are the common threads about them that you could use and leverage to your advantage? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing, like in last week with the Google tool, the demographics planner. It's the same thing. We're basically using different tools to kind of dig in and see what we can discover about the audiences.
Would you say that if you use the, let me pull it inside here. I think they have some like suggestions as far as the detailed targeting. Would you say that the suggestions that they pull up are interconnected with the previous suggestions that they have, that you've selected as far as demographics, interests, and behaviors?
Yeah, because everything that they're doing is related to helping you create a group to advertise to. So they've got several little tools and helpers and, help menus and things to help you, discover who that audience might be and get in tune with them. And then there's another thing too within Facebook that I wanted to share with you guys, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again here. If you go into Facebook, like this is my Facebook feed here. So when you're going through your Facebook feed, when you see an advertisement like this is pretty obviously an ad for promo. There's 3 little dots up here, and this is really cool. I didn't have this when I originally made the training, so this is a new thing for you guys. When you click on these 3 little dots, it'll say, "Why am I seeing this?" So basically, this will give you the insight into this advertiser. And it'll tell you, like, there may be other reasons you're seeing this ad, including that promo wants to reach people ages 18 and older who live in the United States. So this is going out to a massive audience. I mean, they're basically shotgun approach here on this ad. But you might get a hold of one of these ads that says, you've expressed an interest in real estate. That's why you're seeing this ad. So that tells you that you can go into Facebook and you can create an audience that is based on people that are interested in real estate. So this is kind of a little insight into what one of these advertisers is doing, who they're targeting. This is kind of a poor example because this isn't really targeted very well. This is just anybody over 18 that lives in the United States. To me, that would be a massive waste of ad budget to run an ad like that. And these guys, maybe they have more money than sense, and maybe that's okay for them. But if you find one that is very targeted, it might give you a little insight into what they're doing as far as their running of their ads. So let's see, let me scroll down and see if I can find another one here. Now this is not an ad. This is just a guy that I know. So when you click on that one, you're not going to see, why am I seeing this ad? So that is a telltale sign that it's an ad. When you find one like here's an obvious ad. When you click on this, there it is. Why am I seeing this? Whenever you see the "why am I seeing this," you know that's an ad that is paid for by somebody. So here it is. It tells you who's running it. Real Estate Wealth Expo wants to reach people ages 30 and older who live in or near Huntington Beach, California. So this is probably a wealth expo that's coming to town that they want me to know about. So much, much more targeted here. So anyway, that's just kind of a little insight into when you're in your Facebook account, you can see who's advertising to you and what audience they're trying to reach. I've seen some of these that gets really nitty-gritty specific, like people who like Frank Kern. You know, they're advertising because of that criteria. So that's interesting information. So, all right. Any other questions or anything?
That's it for now. Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Hey, John, it's Mary Sue.
Hey, Mary Sue, go ahead.
So I have a question that may be a little off topic from this.
Okay.
But it seems to me like similar audiences might be the flip side of this if you already know something and you want to find who's in the group. So what we just covered, the insights, is if you don't know anybody, but if you want to find an audience to match, maybe similar audiences might be the same. And I guess what I'm wondering is how you might overlap those. So if you found a similar audience, do you try to reverse engineer one or the other of these things to find your absolute ideal targets?
Yeah, what you could do with that, like in your competitor analysis, when you find somebody that is your competitor, you can do that as well. But similar audiences, you can create similar audiences, like that's like people who like Frank Kern, for instance. That is an audience. And then there's similar audiences to that. The other thing is you can actually load an email list of your customers. And I'm not sure if you're aware of this. You can load up that email address of people that have purchased a particular product, and then Facebook has the ability to find other people that are similar to that. So let's say you've got somebody, or let's say you have a product and you've sold 200 units of it. You can load the email addresses up of the 200 people that purchased that product, and Facebook will go to work trying to cross-reference to see what the similarities are of the people that purchased that product, and then they'll give you a similar audience. They'll say, based on the 200 people that's in this group, we've found 10,000 others that we feel are a similar audience.
Awesome.
So that is a really, really cool thing. We talk more about that when we get into traffic and you're actually ready to buy traffic for your campaigns. So if you have existing customer lists, it's really good to load them up in there and see what other audiences are similar. So that's another trick.
One of the things that occurred to me this week, and it was simply because we had a new healthcare practitioner that had bought from us, and he bought a smaller order, and this time it was more significant. So it looks like what he's going to do is increase because he had said that he uses a lot of our products and we know who he used to buy it through. So, and I thought, if I load up the other practitioners, am I going to then see, or do I just stick them into the group and say, I want a similar audience to these, and I don't have to worry about what their profile looks like? Facebook does that for me? Well,
with the ones where you have the email addresses, you have to have a good number of them.
Like, I have. We've got probably a few thousand.
Okay. But you couldn't take like 5 of the practitioners and load them in, because it's not enough data for them to find a commonality to. But if you had, over a couple hundred of the practitioners and you could load those in, Facebook could potentially find you a lookalike audience that might be massive.
Okay.
So that's the beauty of it. The other thing is you can create an audience and then see if you can find lookalike audiences. Like, let's say you put some criteria down, like people that like Frank Kern and people that like Michael Koenigs and people that like, 4 or 5 people. You get a group together, and then you tell Facebook to find me similar audiences to this audience. And it might go out and find people that like other people you've never even heard of, but it's in similar. They're all in the same kind of area.
So am I supposed to be trying to create an ideal avatar from this group? Do I try to reverse engineer that, or does it matter?
Well, the idea is once you find those audiences, you could potentially go back into Facebook Insights and select that audience group and then look at the demographics of that audience group and find who your ideal client is and find your avatar information based on that.
Awesome.
Remember how when we first logged in, it asked what audience we wanted to look at, and I selected all of Facebook?
Yes.
Instead of selecting that, you can choose your audience right there.
Okay.
So that way, you could choose a group or a specified audience. And then at that point, you're in Facebook Insights looking at the demographics of that particular audience.
Okay.
So that would be kind of the way, if you wanted to reverse engineer it from that perspective, that would be the way to do that.
Okay. And then for the personality or emotional aspect to this, it seems to me like the things that I know about practitioners that would be buying our products, okay, I can put that together with whatever the Facebook says the profile is of these people.
Correct.
And pretty much have a good avatar, correct?
Correct, yeah. Yeah, the emotional part of it, a lot of that is going to be intuition. Like, you have a perfect example of somebody that really knows your avatar because you are the avatar. You created your products based on your own needs and then found out, hey, there's a whole world of people that are just like me that have the same problem. And when you have that, you really have the inside track because you know exactly how you felt at that point, and you knew, everything about your avatar because you lived it.
Sure.
So that's, most people, or not most, but a lot of people don't have that benefit.
Right.
So, for you, that's really great that you have that ability. But like when you're reaching out to practitioners now, that might be a further stretch for you to figure out what they're feeling. But still, just knowing the inside track gives you a little bit of an advantage there. But a lot of that is going to be intuition. You're going to find what you can find, and then there's a lot of stuff to build that avatar that you really kind of have to fill in the gaps. And some of it is going to be guesswork, but the more you can base it on what you know, the better off you'll be.
So before I start to run ads, what would I consider a good group to run ads? Is it
you mean like for the size of the audience?
Yeah.
Well, for the size of the audience, the smaller the audience, the more targeted it's going to be, and probably the more effective it's going to be. It'll get down to a certain point where it's not big enough and you can't really do much with it. And the Facebook Insights tool, or not the Insights tool, the ad tool is probably going to tell you that. Because when you select the audience over on the right, it's going to give you a little scale of number of people that you're going to be able to reach.
Okay.
And it'll be based on, all of those different criteria. So at that point, it might make a recommendation that you might need to open up your audience a little bit more to get the most benefit out of it.
Okay.
But
awesome.
To me, the most specified audience is going to convert better.
Okay.
So I'll always opt for a smaller audience versus a bigger, more generic audience if my message matches that audience perfectly.
Gotcha.
If you have a little more of a generic message, then you can go out and you can go to a bigger audience.
Okay.
So and really in answer to your question, there is no right answer to that.
Okay.
It's, it's like different markets and different niches. They're all going to have a different answer to that question. The more profit in the sale and the more valuable the customer is in a long-term value, the more specific and the smaller the audience can be, and you can still get away with it.
Okay.
So it's like I use the example of the guy that sells water parks. He does not need a big audience. He just needs one customer a year, and he's really happy. So,
well, because it's a guaranteed amount, because there's a minimum, but over a number of years, they're significantly valuable, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
the more
absolutely.
customers like that, I don't know, it just had this, see, we don't really know where, at some point when we get the website right, one of the things I would like to do is find out how in the world these people found us and how they, why they decided to come. But at this point, I don't know. I mean, we do talk to them, but on occasion.
Well, I think for you specifically, I think loading your customer database up into Facebook and seeing what the lookalike audience comes out, I think that would be really beneficial, because as far as when you load it up, Facebook is going to look at every criteria they have in their entire database.
Okay.
So they might find that there's a particular doctor or a particular person that has a massive following, and 80% of your customer base follows that person. So in that case, they're going to build you an audience with every person inside Facebook that follows that person.
Okay.
So they could potentially find the missing gaps that you don't know about your audience and fill that up with a massive audience for you to reach out to.
Okay.
So that's a huge benefit to you, because you've got that customer database. A lot of people are just starting out and they haven't really sold anything yet, so they don't have that ability. But for any of you guys that have sold and you have a customer database, that's an absolute gold mine to load that into Facebook and have it build a lookalike audience for you of people that are similar to the people that have purchased your products already. And then, like Mary Sue said, you can reverse engineer that. You can go back into Facebook Insights, select that audience, and look at the demographics of them and find out, are they male? Are they female? What age bracket are they in? Are they homeowners? All those different things about your ideal audience and for you to create your avatar out of. So that is perfect intel for that.
Thank you so much.
Sure, my pleasure. All right, anybody else?
Hey, John, this is Dan again.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
I remember in one of your past either weekly calls that you spent 1 month in the analysis portion. So if you could break it down by percentages, how much time would you spend in each section?
I would say, like, if I were to attack the ACT program from a starting standpoint, and or if I was going to build an ad campaign for a client or anything like that, I would probably spend 50% of the total time in the project in analysis. I would literally spend half of it there, making sure I knew everything about the audience, the most profitable segment, who it was that I was talking to. Because if I do that, if I spend the time there, it's going to cut the time in half that I spend in creation. And when I get it right in creation, when I go to traffic, it's going to make it easy as well. You can imagine, when we go in and we start setting up Facebook ads and we know the audience already, that's going to shortcut time off of that process. So the more time that you spend in analysis getting your foundation right, the less time and the more effective you're going to be at every step moving forward. So as far as time in creation, I would say creation is probably going to be, maybe a quarter to a third. It might outweigh traffic. Usually getting in and setting up traffic campaigns, as far as time consuming, it's not going to be near as time consuming setting up your traffic campaigns as it is to create, your marketing funnels and get all that stuff built and put together. But in traffic, the thing about traffic that makes this equation lopsided is your traffic is going to really go on forever. But to set up your initial campaigns to get it going is not going to be as much as your creation process. So hopefully that, that kind of gives you a picture of how you would cut it up. But just keep in mind, that analysis really, that's your foundation. So the more rock solid your foundation is, the more rock solid everything you put on top of it is going to be.
And how do you know that you're done with analysis?
Well, you really are never done. Everything's going to change as things go on. What you're really doing the first time is you're learning a process. And the process, once you learn it, the process is going to change you forever. It's like, when you learn to ride a bike, it was a major thing. You had to concentrate on it. You had to focus on it. You had to try it, fail, and try and fail, and try and fail. And then all of a sudden, you took off one day and you never looked back. You never even had to think about it again. You could just hop on. That's what this is. This is, you're creating this thing that's going to be on autopilot for the rest of your life. And I'm always, like, in my day-to-day life, I'm always looking at analysis for one thing or another. And now, I talk about opportunities come my way almost on a daily basis. When I look at a new opportunity through the goggles of what I know about how to analyze an opportunity, I can almost literally on the fly say yay or nay whether that's worth my time or not, because I know exactly what to look for. So it's like analysis in this whole process, it's never going to end. Your business is always going to be growing. It's always going to be moving forward. And one thing I can tell you for sure is your audience habits are probably going to change. They're going to change with time, new technology, new opportunities, the media. Everyone is altering perceptions, and it's an ongoing thing. So it's not like you can create a one-off marketing campaign that's going to finish you off for the rest of your life. But once you get this under your belt and you understand this process, it's going to be so easy for you to change with the tide and keep ahead of everything. You'll have an enormous advantage over those that don't.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing too, when you go into your creation, you might find a gap. You might find something that, wow, if I knew this, if I had this stat, I would be able to make a claim-proof benefit that's unstoppable. So you can always go back to analysis to find whatever you need. Your process of research of how to do things better, that's all part of analysis. And, like I said, that's an ongoing process. The hard part, the difficult part for everybody is that they see this as all being compartmentalized, and they have to finish this one part and make it all neat and tidy before they move up, and they think they're never going to take a step back. And that's not true. This thing is just like life. It's messy. So if you have other ideas, they're probably not on par with the truth. Marketing campaigns, like I said, it's just like life. They're never clean and tidy. They're an ongoing can of worms that continues to move. And that's not an easy thing to sell, but it's the truth and it's the reality. So just be prepared for it. All right. Anything else? Last shot here before we wrap up for the evening. All right, well, great. Hey, thank you all for being on here and participating. I love the Q&A sessions, and it really does help everyone in the program when you guys participate. So thanks for being on here, and we'll be back on next week with our next one. We'll be moving on down the line. So thanks again, guys, for your participation. I appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Good night.
Okay, good night, everybody.